Good morning. Today we are going to start with GNET Team Effectiveness Leadership Model. Now, this is the last topic in your module 4. After that, we'll be starting with the module 5. So, let's see what this model exactly talks about. Now, let's see what this theory talks about. Now, this theory says that leadership is a team function, and the job of the leader is to create a condition wherein each and every member of a team can work effectively. So every team is made up of three essential overlapping factors. Now, what are these factors? These factors are: first thing, there should be a leader. Second, if there is a leader, then there should be a follower. And if they are creating a team, that means a team is created to achieve a particular objective or to complete a particular task. So that task becomes the situation. Now, what this theory says is to effectively lead a team, a leader should know more about team than leading. If that leader knows how good this team is, then he can lead in an efficient manner. So, moving further, when we talk about our normal day-to-day business or businesses that are carried out into the market, we have basic process, that is, we put in the business owners put in inputs can be men, machinery, money, and material. Now, using these inputs, they undergo certain process, and then after that process we get an output. It can be a product or a services. In the similar fashion, this theory also talks about the stages, these three stages. One is input, second one is process, and third one is output. Now, what are these input, process, and output? We'll see in the next slide. Before moving to the next slide, this theory also talks about identifying what team needs to be effective. That means what are the requirements of the team so that they can perform their best. And uh, the leader's role in a team is removing the roadblocks that come in the performance of the team and creating a clear pathway so that the team reaches to the goal in an efficient and productive manner. So now, talking about team effectiveness leadership model. Now, as we all have seen in the previous slide, the stages of team effectiveness leadership model comprises of the first stage, that is input, then the second stage is process, and the third stage is output. Now, let's see what the inputs are in this stage, that is the stage 1. The first input that we talk about is organizational input. Now, these organizational inputs are again affected by the factors such as the it can be macro as well as micro. And the second factor that affects the organizational inputs is the industry to which it belongs, the organization belongs to. So what are the organizational inputs? The first input is the reward system. How is the reward system within the organization? Second is education system. Education system involves what kind of qualification is required to join that particular organization. Secondly, how the training and development happens within the organization, how the organization makes what do you say, or teaches the skills to its employees. So all these things will come under education system. Then third one is information system. That means how is the information flow, how information is gathered and disseminated to each and every person who requires it. That is called as information system. And the fourth one is the control system. Now, if at all certain things are not happening in a proper as per the plans, then what are the measures that are taken by a company to control that particular uh, the situation. Now you need to take into consideration these codes here. Now if you see this, it is for reward system, the code is O1, then O2, O3 and O4. Now what these code exactly mean and how they are used as per this particular model, we'll see in the further slides. So just remember that every input that we are going to see here is allocated a code. Now moving to the next input, it is it talks about individual inputs. Now what do you mean by individual inputs here? Now these inputs are basically related to the team member, the members who are in a particular team, who is working towards a towards achieving an objective. So individual inputs can be the interest or motivation of that particular person or team member to work in this what do you say to work for this particular task or to achieve this objective. The second input can be is basically the skills and abilities that the team member has. The third input under individual inputs is values and attitudes that a person carries, and the fourth input is interpersonal behavior. Interpersonal behavior is basically how that person behaves with the other team members. So these are four individual inputs, or basically it's the inputs which is relating to a team member. Now again if you observe here, there are again the points that are allocated, if you see, or the code that is allocated I1, I2, I3 and I4. Let's take a look at the third input. The third input is team design. That means what is the composition of the team, or how is the team designed here. So first is, whenever we design a team, we take into consideration what task should the team perform. So based on that we select the team. Then based on the task we select the composition. That means the members who can complete this particular task, only those members are selected in that team. The third input in team design is norms. Team norms, you have seen in the previous classes also. It is the rules or the policies by which the team is governed. And the last input is the authority. That means who is in charge of that particular team, or the team leader. So moving further to the process. So what all things are involved in the process? Now process criteria, again if you see here, the first process criteria is effort. Now making use of all these inputs, you are going to put efforts in order to achieve the outcome. So first process criteria is the efforts, then the knowledge and the skills that are being used to achieve the outcomes, the strategy that is being used to achieve the outcomes, and the group dynamics. What do you mean by group dynamics? Is the behavior of the group members within that particular team while performing the task. Now again if you observe, there are codes that are being allocated for each process criteria. So for organizational input the code is O, for team design the code is T, for individual inputs the code is I, and for process criteria the code is P. Now once we go through, we invest our inputs, then go through a process, we come out with an output. Now what are outputs? Outputs can be the outcomes acceptable by the stakeholders. That means whoever has allocated the task, whether he is satisfied with the completion of that task or no. Then the outputs can be future capabilities of the team. Or now if at all there are the similar kind of task or more challenging task rather, if comes forth and this team is capable to do, then again this team will continue in the future also, and the outcome also can be the satisfaction level that an individual gets from achieving that particular task. So if you take into consideration, inputs are organization inputs, team design, and the individual outputs. Now if you see the arrows, these this arrow and this arrow, now based what these arrows mean is, based on the organizational inputs and individual inputs, a team is designed. Okay, so now making use of this team, each member puts in efforts, makes use of the knowledge and skills that they have, plan a strategy, and work as a group in order to achieve this particular outcome. I just hope things are clear. So let's move to the next slide. So this theory also talks about major leadership functions that are to be performed. The first one is dream, second one is design, and third one is development. Now what are these functions? We'll see in the next slide. Now these functions are applied at the input stage and at the process stage. When these functions are applied in these two stages in a proper way, we can expect a good outcome from the team. So hope everyone is clear with what are the inputs, what is the process, and what an output means. Now in the previous slide we have seen the functions, the important functions that a leader needs to perform. The functions are dream, design, and development. So what dream here means is, a leader has to make sure that the vision or the objective of the task that is being performed, or the objective behind framing that particular team is clear to each and every member, each and every team member. Now this is the most important function of the leader, that once because once the outcomes or the vision is clear, then the team can perform in an efficient manner. So taking into consideration the outcomes or the tasks that are being performed, a leader's next function is to design the suitable team. So based on the outcomes or the tasks that are to be performed, the leader designs the team. Now the task that are to be performed requires many skill sets, many what do you say, a kind of knowledge, a kind of understanding of the things. So a leader has to see to it that each and everything is understood and is doable by each and every team members. Now we have seen in the previous slides or previous session of this module, that a composition of the team should be such that every team member complements each other. So a design of a team has to be in such a way that every team member should complement the skills of each other. Next phase is development, or next function is basically the development. Now what happens in this particular function, or what does a leader do in this particular function, is he sees to it that each and every person is performing the task properly. Each and every member is getting the resources that are required to perform their task. And basically what a leader is doing here under development function is, he is trying to clear all the roadblocks that are coming in front of the team to achieve that particular objective. So these are three major functions that a leader needs to perform in the leadership process. The first being dream, that is the leader should make the vision very clear to the team. Then a leader should design a team in a such a way that each and every person complements the skills and knowledge that the team possesses or team member possesses. And development is what the leader does in order to enable the team members to complete those tasks. So these are the three functions of leadership according to this model. I hope everyone is clear with input, process, output plus the functions of leadership as per this module or model. Now what comes next is the feedback. Now what feedback or what does feedback do here is it takes feedback or it compares the actual process or the actual outcomes that you are getting now with the planned ones, and the comparison happens between these two criterias. What you are doing or what the team is doing should match with what the planned outcomes are. So that is what feedback means here. Now, this theory talks about the feedback, and if at all anything goes wrong, or say for example, if you're not getting or there is a problem with one particular process criteria or this block, if at all there is a problem with any of these four criterias, then this theory talks about what is to be checked in the input, or basically if anything goes wrong in this thing or this process criteria, this theory tells you where you have to look for the solution in the inputs. Now what this theory says is, if at all there is a problem when you gather the feedback and you feel that there is a problem with the efforts, this theory talks about or says that you need to check with the inputs which are at the one level, that is the reward system. If at all there is a problem or issue with the efforts that are put in by the employees, you need to check the reward system in organizational inputs. You need to check whether the task is clear or no, or task given by allocated to the team members are clear or no. And individual outputs, if the team members are interested or motivated to complete that particular task or no. So if at all there are lack of efforts from the team members, that is the process criteria number one, then you need to consider, or the leader needs to consider, the organizational inputs criteria number one, team inputs criteria number one, and individual inputs criteria number one. That is why these codes have been allocated to each and every input and process. So this is what this entire theory is all about. So let's see into the details of how the feedback is gathered, or what the how the feedback helps the leader to efficiently manage the team. So we have to go as per these codes. Now if at all the leader finds that there is a problem with the efforts that are put in by the team members, then because the efforts lie in the first point or the first criteria, we need to check whether the team members are satisfied with the reward system of the organization, or is whether the reward system is not clear with the team members, or the tasks that are being performed by the team members are not clear to them, or the team members are not interested or motivated in working towards that particular task. Now in the similar fashion, it goes on with the knowledge and skills. As the knowledge and skills are at P2 level, or the second criteria, if at all there is an issue with the knowledge and skills, the leader needs to take into consideration the educational system of the organizational inputs, whether the knowledge or the skill sets that are required by the team members to perform that team are being provided by the organization owner, and at the team design level, whether the leader has chosen the right composition of the team members, and at the individual level, whether the team members have the proper team skills or abilities to perform those particular tasks. When you go towards the next level or next criteria, if at all you find there is a issue with with the strategy, then at the organizational level you have to consider the third criteria, that is the information system in organizational inputs. The third criteria in team design, that is the norms or the policies of the group by which the policies by which the group is governing, or and the third criteria in the individual output, that is the value and the attitude of the team members. When you see the next criteria, now these four criteria, or the fourth criteria of all inputs and process, is the foundation on which the other things are based. So group dynamics is the foundation for all other processes. The control team control system is again the foundation of the organizational input. The team authority again is the foundation for team design, and the team interpersonal behavior is the foundation for individual outputs. All the above outputs, that means criteria 1, 2 and 3 of every input and process, are the foundation for group dynamics, team control and system, team control system, team authority, and team interpersonal behavior. So this is what the entire model talks about. It talks about the functions, it talks about input, process and output of the effective team, the process of effective team. It also talks about the feedback, whatever the feedback that you collect, if at all there is a deviation with what actually has to happen, then this theory tells that where the deviation is and what things need to be corrected in order to make the team function in a smooth way. So this is all from this is all about the GNet team effectiveness leadership model. So by this we end module 4. If you have any doubts relating to entire module 4, you can always ask me on the Google Classroom. So let's move to the module 5. In this session, we are just going to have the introduction of module 5 and one or two concepts in module 5. So let's move to module 5. So this module 5 talks about leader follower relation, and in this leader follower relation we are going to talk about evolution of dyadic theory, then leader member exchange theory, then what do you mean by fellowship, delegation, coaching and managing, how leaders manage conflicts within the teams or within the followers. The next part, or the second part of module 5, is organizational leadership. In that we are going to see what is charismatic and transformational leadership, stewardship and servant leadership, leadership of culture and diversity, and creating high performance culture in and strategic leadership. So these are this is the content of module 5. So let's see each and every each topic of this module in detail from the next slide. So in this session we are going to, or in the first part of module 5, we are going to see the evolution of dyadic theory. Then we are going to see what is leader member exchange theory. Then we are going to see what is fellowship and delegation. And lastly, we are going to see coaching and managing conflicts. So let's understand what dyadic theory is all about. Now, till the recent past, the researcher on leadership, the researchers of leadership always focused on the leaders, but they did not take into consideration the followers. Now, we need to understand that a leader can be a leader only if he or she has a number of followers. So this dyadic theory talks about the importance of the followers in the entire leadership module or entire leadership process. So in the recent past, it was evident that effective leadership is to some extent because of a good relationship that is maintained by the leaders with the followers. Now, this relationship based approach in leadership theory has been developed in the recent past, that is just 25 years ago, and now it is still continuing. The research is still going on, and improvements on this particular theory are still being done. So, how the evolution of dyadic theory has happened, we'll see in the next slides. So before seeing the evolution, let's understand what you mean by dyad. Dyad is basically the association that prevails between a leader and a follower. Basically, it is the relationship between a leader and a follower. So let's see what you mean by dyadic. Dyadic means an individualized relation between a leader and a follower. That means if at all you have a group of followers, if a leader has a group of followers, then what is the relationship with each and every follower? The leader's relationship with each and every follower is called as dyadic. That is a study of the relationship between a leader and every follower in his group. Now let's see what dyadic theory is. Dyadic theory is an approach to leadership that attempts to explain why leaders vary their leadership behavior with different followers. Now, let's take for example, maybe you also must have observed in your personal life that every leader has a different kind of approach towards every follower. Leader does not act in or behave in a similar fashion with each and every follower. Leader has a different kind of approach towards every follower. Now you must have experienced certain things that few members are favorite of a particular leader, and leader always prefers those favorite followers. So why is this thing happening? That means, why does a leader favors a few followers and sometimes tries and ignore the other followers? This is what this theory attempts to talk about. So, what are the trends in dyadic theory? There are the few trends in dyadic theory. It talks about uh, so this is how the evolution of dyadic theory has taken place. It has evolved in four different stages. In first stage, we have vertical dyad linkage theory. In the second stage of the research, leader member exchange theory was developed. In the third stage, The researchers talked about team building, and in the fourth stage, the researchers talked about systems and networks. So for today's session, we will stop here, and what are these stages we'll see in detail in the next session. Thank you. And the quiz or the assignment for this particular module will be live at 5:30 sharp. You can go through the assignment and solve it. The time that will be your deadline for submitting that assignment will be 6:15. Thank you.